to see what miracles have been wrought here through growing, I think is definitely spiritual, a spiritual journey.
It's in the plants, it's in the animals, it's in the encounters we have, it's in the appreciation of a beautiful sunny day like we have today.
When I think of mysticism, I think of being able to touch the divine in ways that are accessible to everyone if we work at it.
I believe that I will always be connected to the God of the universe.
Welcome to Mystics of the Heartland. I'm your host, Mickey Hay. In this series, we explore the intersection between spirituality and various disciplines such as nature, science, and the arts. Join me in my conversations with community members and thought leaders as we explore how ordinary people live their everyday spiritual lives. What do you think of when you hear the word mystic? You're about to meet some people who believe that mysticism is available to all of us, and not something exotic that's open to only a few. Maybe mysticism is a little less mysterious than we think.
The mystic is the one who looks at a situation that someone else might look at with a whole different set of eyes.
I don't have a specific image of what a mystic is like I would have of someone who said I was a Wiccan or something like that, you know, a specific thing.
We must put aside this notion that mysticism is some sort of exotic thing that's open only to a few who have attained a certain level of intellectualism or whatnot.
A mystic is someone who can see, can vision goodness, and can make it happen as well.
When I think of mysticism, I think of being able to touch the divine in ways that are accessible to everyone if we work at it. We have to be able to see the Creator in the ordinary, and that to me is at the heart of mysticism.
Sort of an encompassing understanding that we're all connected to something, that there is more than the physical, and that we're moved to do things because of that.
How many times have people said, I see God in the beauty of the wilderness, or I see God in the beauty of the mountaintop? Or how many people keep dream journals and relate their dream experiences the next day to a spiritual director or someone? That's engaging mysticism.
And I think mysticism, or a mystic, draws from a source. And often my source is the outdoors and nature. And kids. Kids bring forth that energy as well.
What is that source? Where do we come from? Where do we go afterward? Later in this episode, we'll explore the mystery that surrounds the afterlife. So, let's talk about spirituality. As you'll soon learn, some people feel that spirituality is part of one's inner life, while others find it in the outer world.
The definition of spirituality for me comes from just what goes on in an inner being of who I am, but the fact that there is a transcendent quality, something that takes me beyond.
For me, spirituality is focused on nature, obviously, and on the world around me. I was not brought up at all with a traditional or a formal religious background, and I just find the spirit of creation or God, whatever you want to call it, is all around us.
Spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is something that is conjured up in the soul, and it comes from inspiration, from beauty, and that beauty to me is those swans out there, or the woodpecker sound, or the frogs, especially when the kids catch them and see them.
It's in the plants, it's in the animals, it's in the encounters we have, it's in the appreciation of a beautiful sunny day like we have today. And so that's where I go to find my grounding. I'm, rooted and calm and peaceful when I'm out in nature.
I think it's very difficult to define spirituality. I am sure within myself I have something that is more than just my body, but I'm not sure that it's a soul in the way I was taught as a child. I was brought up as a Catholic, and I am not a practicing Catholic anymore, but I definitely feel that there's something inside me beyond my blood and heart and guts that is there. So that is spirituality. I feel it's a connection with other living organisms too. I'm a lifelong lover of plants. Even as a child, I would go and look for wildflowers and look up their names. My mother's a keen gardener. I studied botany at university. I am an educator. So this is combining plants and science education and hopefully giving a legacy for the future, because we're all connected to the environment. Animals are the sexy bit of nature and the environment. Plants aren't, but without plants we have nothing.
I grew up on a farm, and my dad was a great mentor to me. He was a farmer first, then he was a caretaker at a camp, and then he became a head gardener at Goshen College. And so he taught me stewardship through that, and through fishing, and through collecting wild edibles. I lived in Lake Hughes, which is up in the mountains, and there was blue skies every single day, but I had to drive down to Northridge, where the earthquake happened, and it was brown smog all the time. And I said, well, what can I do to help cure this, solve this issue? And I thought, teaching kids. But now the main reason I'm an environmental educator is because I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I want those two to experience the outdoors just like I have.
It's the growing up in northern Minnesota that laid this foundation of connectedness to place, And I just realized the depth of that more and more in my life. I was fortunate to grow up on a small farm, so it put us in contact with animals and raising things, but we had woods on our property. We were close to a lake, I mean, lakes all around us. I ranged from being interested in medicine to agriculture. And most of my first 25 years of career was involved in being a principal. I was ready for a change in my career. My focus has been on educational leadership and administration, but I was interested in a different setting. And I'd like to say that I planned this out very carefully, but it's part of the synergistic things that happen in life that are exciting. But it's at an environmental center, so now it harkens back to my early interest, as well as the hobby interest that I had. And the third piece in that strand of three, from leadership to ecology, was my interest in faith and theology and spirituality. So to come into a center like Mary Lee, where all three of those things are important, it's like, wow.
My background as a naturalist actually goes all the way back really to my childhood, I would say. My family spent a lot of time outside in Wisconsin. I was a Girl Scout once I turned age 6 and went to summer camps every year, and I had supporting adults around me. And so I was exposed to nature from an early age, and as I came up through Girl Scouting, I was working with children quite a bit, and being a naturalist is a perfect blend of those two interests. When I came out of college, I didn't really know there was a job called a naturalist. I just knew I wanted to work outside and I wanted to work with children. I just fell into this position here at Fernwood and have loved it ever since. And like I said, it just blends my passion for nature, and I love working with children.
So I think, in fact, as I've got older and I've watched my children develop, I've almost become more passionate about environmental education. And I was saying to one of my daughters, if anything, my midlife crisis is to turn is to go back to being a tree-hugging hippie or whatever. Because we need to keep that connection between the environment and ourselves. We are not above it, we are part of it, we are all connected in life.
Are we all connected in life? Is that what spirituality is all about? For some, taking care of the earth is how spirituality intersects with their life's purpose. Being spiritual means having a concern for the environment and a love of nature.
The intersection that comes between my spirituality and my work as a naturalist, I think, goes to a sense of stewardship or a sense of appreciation and caring for this natural world. I really think that's something important in any religion or spirituality. It's all about taking care of the earth and stewardship and honoring and respecting the spirits around us.
It's difficult to put the connection between nature and spirituality into words, I think, because I think it's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's not something empirical, it's not science. You can't sit there and define it and test it.
I feel a strong connection to the environment. I feel that through the fact that I know I can have an impact on it and that it impacts me. But I think there's also an aspect to it where we are not separate from an environment. Environment just means all the things around us, and that's both built and natural, and we are part of both of those things. There's something that drives us to do what we do. There's a change that happens when you start to connect with, how you're actually impacting things, or why something is what it is, or you start seeing the world that's around your home with new eyes.
I give a lot of time as a volunteer to Wellfield, and one of the reasons is because this is a great inner city space. It is an accessible place where people can come, and hopefully through being here they will open their eyes to nature, that some of them will see something, hear something, feel something that they might not have been aware of before. You walk through the woods, you walk through some of the garden parts, you walk in the different parts, and you see beauty, you hear, you feel. So hopefully people will, open their eyes and then begin to want to learn a little bit more about the connections.
So in the Judeo-Christian story, you have Adam, which really means soil, from the earth. And so we are also from the earth. We will return to the earth. And so while we're living on earth, we ought to be connecting to the soil. So I like to do that, and so I want my garden soil to be healthier than when I arrived at this place.
My purpose is to help the future continue, to make sure that my children's children's children have a good life. We got to think futuristically for the things like air and water and food. Because if we don't, we'll have some crises, and that's what the problems we're having now, is we didn't think futuristically. One thing for me is to help educate people to think beyond those sunny days with blue skies, and to talk more about life instead of just football and baseball.
Walking through the gardens, going into the different areas, having the quiet to listen to the birds and to listen to the wind in the trees, to see the different plants, to see what miracles have been wrought here through growing, I think is definitely a spiritual journey.
When I can share that knowledge and that appreciation, that excitement with a 5-year-old who's seeing a frog at the pond, with a senior citizen who's appreciating the spring wildflowers that we have out here, that's just what it's all about. I'm here to connect people to this natural environment and make them appreciate it better. And if I can facilitate that by providing them some education, some insight, it can be scientific, it can be a little humorous, there can be history in there, that's helping them connect with the earth and ground themselves, I think, with the bigger picture and a bigger purpose on this planet.
Wildness is an important component that a lot of us miss. And so my job is to help kids and people find wildness. And you can find wildness in a city. You can find it anywhere. I actually took a bunch of people on a wild edible hike from Maple City Market, downtown Goshen, to the farmer's market, and in 3 blocks we found 40 different things you could eat. My hope and goal and inspiration is to get kids on fire, because once you know about a place, you'll start loving it, and as soon as you start loving it, you'll hopefully take better care of it. I am interested in educating the people that can make a big difference. If I ever have the opportunity, I would like to study the ecological literacy of politicians and religious leaders, because those are the 2 most powerful people out there that can make a big difference.
My feelings toward the environment, my feelings towards why I care, I can't plunk those into someone's brain, but because I know that it's important, I can, through what I do every day, make that possible for others in a way that respects, them and their values.
When I'm walking in the woods, when you're seeing birds, plants, there's a connection, and we need to respect each other and have, so that we can all live in harmony.
That is something that I think we can all understand and feel.
I think about there might be other jobs I would probably be happy in, but this one just touches my heart and my soul, and this is what I was meant to do.
A search for edible wild plants, nature walks, educating children, reaching politicians or religious leaders. These are all various forms of stewardship and a way to leave a legacy for future generations.
I think that after this life, it's just a continuum, that it's not just an end of your life on this earth. Your spirit does continue in the greater universe and in the world around you.
I live in a reasonable and holy hope that I shall meet all loved ones that I have ever known, parishioners, family, in the kingdom of God.
Oh, I think I go to compost and therefore I get recycled, but hopefully some of our ideas live on in the people we've touched and interacted with.
For me, that's an unknown.
We leave a legacy and we leave an emotion. We leave sentiment and we leave tradition and values behind. So those aren't things that exist solely tied to our body.
What happens after this life for me is a good piece to reflect on. It's part of that spiritual dimension. And I'm quite comfortable not needing to define that fully, rather than saying it's a theological box into which I need to describe my future views.
I've done a lot of research into Native American cultures and their traditions and their beliefs, and they have a approach to a spirit in every living thing, every part of the environment out there.
I was raised in the Church of the Brethren, raised in a Mennonite church, and they've always told me that there's a heaven. And I think it's fantastic if there is.
Part of the Christian belief, part of my belief, is that the relationships that we develop here in this earthly life continue on into eternity.
I don't believe in an afterlife for me or because I don't believe in a soul. I think I have some kind of spiritual component, but I don't think it's a soul that's going to go to heaven.
There's a physical part that isn't part of that goes away, and there is the spirit that drives you, and I believe that does not disintegrate.
But I do think, hopefully, as we're interacting with people, that some of our good rubs on, or like Julius Caesar, the good lives on and the bad's interred. And say physically, hey, compost, it's recycling.
I also think we might be part of that web of life, part of that food for the critters.
I think it would be hard to imagine one's inner spirit or the connection, the part that makes you you and not just a walking around organic robot. If it could be so easily disintegrated, then we wouldn't have such profound after impacts of the people that have left us.
And I do hope to be reunited with family and loved ones that I have known. And so it's very simple for me. That is my holy hope, my expectation, my joy. So joy in this life, joy in the next life. I feel that I'm in a very, very good place.
I believe that I will always be connected to the God of the universe, the God who created this place, the God who filled this place with love in the ultimate form.
Even in their afterlife belief, it's just part of the journey of life as you continue from what's on this world into the afterlife, but the spirit still lingers.
I'm just excited to be here now.
So where does spirituality intersect with your life? Join us next time on Mystics of the Heartland, and we'll explore topics such as theology, food, and the arts. I'm Mickey Hay, your guide on this journey. Thank you for being with us.
Short intermission. We'll see you in about 15 minutes.